Okay, yeah, be very, very quick. I first of all give Arkansas State credit. I thought they're scrappy, and we just played them less than 2 weeks ago, and I think that, gosh, it looks like about the same margin or maybe less than one tonight, but very scrappy team, just like it was in Jonesboro, kind of a very hard-fought physical game. I thought our guys not as sharp as we were Saturday for sure against a really good James Madison team, but we were able to kind of grind through. I was hoping that a couple of times that we would kind of bust it on out of there, but they again give them credit. They'd hit a shot or kind of get a stop, or maybe we would not score in a fast break situation or something like that. But I thought overall, overall it was a good effort. Of course, we'll have to be ready to go Saturday. These quick turnarounds Thursday, Saturdays at 2 are tough, and a really, really good Texas State team, very defensive minded. So we'll have to be on top of things Saturday.
Questions?
I guess the big news for the Sun Belt tonight, Marshall loses. That leaves you guys and UL tied at the top of the standings. I mean, what's the approach from here on out? I mean, this is a spot Southern Miss hasn't been in quite some time.
Yeah, well, that's exciting, the fact that we're in the fourth week. Are we in the fourth week of, I don't even know what date it is, I'll be honest with you.
Fifth week or
Fourth week of January, and we're still playing important games, and that's one of our goals, is for us to play in meaningful games in February. And of course we're going to be doing that, and of course I haven't seen the league scores, y'all mentioning that, but I'm going to say this. First of all, Marshall has a really good team. Louisiana has a really good team. There's a bunch of really good teams, and I've said it from day one, especially after we played Monroe. Monroe's pretty good, and they've got some really good guards. They're very physical and extremely well coached, and Coach Richard does an outstanding job. So I'm not surprised one bit that they beat Marshall, but Marshall's got a great team. And anyway, but we can't control on what happens in everybody else's locker room. All we can control is ourselves, and we'll have to get our feet back on the ground for tomorrow's practice and get ready for a tough Texas State team. But that is exciting to know that we're still fighting it out for first.
what were they kind of doing in the beginning of the half? You mentioned it, kind of they're a little scrappy, kind of holding y'all down just a little bit.
Yeah, the game was very, as y'all probably saw, was very physical.
Yeah.
A lot of physicality on cutting, and I thought it was called consistently. So I'm not complaining about the officiate, but it was physical, and so I think, of course, we've had that. I think that seems to be kind of the way that people want to try to play us, is be physical with Hasse, be physical with DeAndre Pinckney inside, and again, we'll have to learn to adjust to it, but give Arkansas State credit there.
Is it 18 wins at this point? I mean, it's the most wins since I think officially the 11-12 season, if you don't count the vacated years. I mean, that's 10 years. I mean, how does that feel, considering where you guys have been in the past?
Well, it's a lot more fun than losing. I promise you that. And I don't want to use the term suffer, but our fan base and of course our players that were here the last couple of years and haven't been able to reap the rewards of their hard work and for them to win. But it's really a bigger thing than that, Andrew, because I mean, our goal and vision when we first got here was to, and we've said it a million times, to help return Southern Miss to national respect and prominence in men's basketball. And from someone that grew up here as a small little boy in a basketball family that used to come to games, and my dad and I would count the number of people in the Coliseum. And of course, it's kind of been like that the last couple of years. I mean, we haven't done our part. The most important part of getting your fan base back is put good product on the floor. And I've said it all the time. You can have all the hot dog nights and fraternity nights and all that kind of stuff, but if you don't have a good product on the floor, and you can put a good product on the floor, and you don't have to have any of those nights, right? And I doubt Kentucky has dollar hot dog night, but the good thing is that it's rewarding to see that spirit come back to Reed Green, and the student section start coming back, and the people coming back, and just the overall excitement. I know over the last 3 or 4 weeks, I've seen a lot of smiling faces in Reed Green, and people are having fun. And encourage anyone that hasn't come out to come out Saturday, or because we only have 4 more home games. And the last time Felipe Hasse is a fun player to watch, and that's going to be the last time we have an opportunity to see him. But that's really the most rewarding thing. And I haven't kept up with the wins. I've always been, sure about what we were doing and how to go about it. And but it's finally good to start seeing the wins come. And again, I'm happy for everybody, not just me. It's way more than me. The staff, our players, athletic administration, our president. I'm appreciative of them sticking with me when a lot of people were howling to leave, we need a change, and so I'm thankful to be the coach here, and this is where I want to be. I don't have a plan B. My plan B would be to go back to the coast and coach in high school, so I don't have a plan B.
Jay, you probably covered this before I got in. How big a boost did you think Alvarez gave you off the bench?
Not just tonight, Mr. Rick, but of course last game too. I don't know if you got a chance to see our game. Yeah. He just brings a different element that we don't have. And of course, as I discussed in the last right in here, most people, because he got hurt right after the Vanderbilt game, he got hurt in the Loyola New Orleans game, which was our 3rd game, right after we'd gotten back from Vanderbilt. Of course, he played well at Vanderbilt, and the type of injury he had, he couldn't even practice. I mean, he just had to wait for it to heal before he could even start putting weight on it. And a lot of people forgot about him. So it's a credit to those guys that played in the meantime. And, of course, we just had to go on about our business. But to have him back and what he brings off, of course, now he's coming off the bench, and that'll continually be evaluated too. But he's got a bulldog mentality. He's very aggressive. He's a good player, and he's getting better and better every day at practice. I mean, having to get Hasse to kind of tell him. Of course, we installed a lot of things from Vanderbilt up until he came back. So there's a lot of things out there that he hasn't ripped at a lot. So I'm having to tell. We have more of I guess a football coach would have more of a limited playbook for somebody that is just coming in, and we have kind of more of a limited playbook with him. And then Felipe has to tell him in Spanish what's going on out there, what to do. So that's funny too, but to watch that happening. But anyway, he brings a lot to the table, Mr. Rick, and it's good to have him, especially because he's fresh as we're coming down the stretch.
That backwards pass and that dunk
Yeah.
to Ivory. I mean, that has to be one of the sweeter basketball plays you
You know,
see.
but he did that the other night. He flipped it behind his back the other night for a dunk. But he's really, really good in the open floor. And it's important the way that we play, that it starts with our defensive pressure, and to have him and Mo, especially up front in the front of that press, applying pressure for 40 minutes. Gosh, I'm still back in my high school days, about to say 32, 40 minutes. And then, of course, we get the ball out in transition or maybe create deflections. That's when I think that we're at our best. But he's really good in the open floor.
Coach, we had 2 attempted dunks there in the second half. Both of them got blocked. One of them's got to be a foul. Did the referee, Amy Bonner, give you any kind of explanation?
I can't comment on that. I don't know how that one wasn't a foul, but those I know all three of those officials, and they're good people, and I think maybe that was one they maybe would like to have over. But they're good officials. I think they just may miss that one.
Coach, Arkansas State with 9 turnovers, and you got 15 points off of those. Just to talk about that.
Well, we only had 2 at the half, and that was one of the big things for us. We put all those statistics up on the board. We talk about steals, deflections, opponent field goal percentage, all those type of things, and we only had 2 turnovers at the half, and that's one thing we said, that's unacceptable. That's got to pick up, and it was a direct reflection of our pressure. But you also have to understand, first of all, they did a good job of taking care of the ball and controlling the tempo. You got to give Coach Bellato credit. But on the other side of it, I thought we played really, really hard Saturday, and about as good as we could play, I think, at this point of the year. Played with a lot of emotion, and we just didn't quite have that emotional, not that we were flat, but we just didn't have that emotional edge that we played with on Saturday.
What about it tonight? You didn't have that emotional edge?
Yeah, I didn't think we quite had it. I thought we played hard, but didn't have that just a little bit extra. I thought we were a little bit behind on a few things, and thought we did a better job in the second half.
What gives the team that emotional edge?
A lot of it is the crowd, but first and foremost, just that internal championship drive. You got a bunch of guys in there that want to do something, and They talk about making history. They're very aware, of where we've been over the last few years, and they want to be the group that's looked at in years back. People look back like they do the NCAA tournament teams and Coach Turk's '81 team that went to the NIT, Mr. Rick, against Holy Cross here. They want to look back at those teams, our NIT team that does Spoons, those teams in the early '90s. Coach Hugh Stacy's team, Coach James Green's team that won the Conference USA back then against some incredible people. They want to look back like people look back at those teams. They want to be the team that turned it around.
When's the last time you remember, or do you remember, a team ever having as big a turnaround from one season to the next?
I've never been part of one in my 32 years, but
I'm trying to
remember. Jack would have to supply you with. He'll have to do some research maybe and supply on some of that. But our thing is, and I know this is cliche-ish, y'all, but we literally are trying to take it one at a time, and some of the same people that are patting us on the back on the way off the floor, which we are so thankful for, are some of the same ones that were calling from my head. But that's part of our jobs, right? And anyway, but I hope, Mr. Rick, because but not as much for me, but really for our coaching staff and our school and our players. I've been doing it a long time, but they're having fun. Our assistant coaching staff, prior to this year, had 1 year combined of Division I coaching experience, and those are the hardest working guys that I have ever been around. They are enthusiastic. All of them say, Coach, because I was very upfront with them. I said, my boss has never told me anything about this being a do or die year, but I'm smart enough to know it was probably a do or die year, or is, and so I didn't want them to take a job that they felt like that I wasn't upfront or transparent with them, and they get in here and they got families to take care of, and they're out looking for a job this coming spring. But every one of them took it with open arms, and they battle every day like it's our last day on the job if we don't get it done. And it's exciting.
Heath, do you have a question?
Yeah, hey Coach.
Hey Heath.
Kind of piggybacking off the Alvarez question, he's so good off the bench and he brings you such a spark. When it gets back to, is it a position where you like him coming off the bench there? With Mo starting, or do you switch that up? How do you play that?
Well, of course, if you go back to when he was here in the fall, and you go back to the Vanderbilt game, he started. Of course, that was the first 2 games. That was our first 3 games. That was our starting lineup. You had Mo and Nefta starting, and but of course, since he's been out so long, we're just we don't want. But we've been successful, so we don't want to just disrupt our flow. But gosh, he brings us a lift coming off that bench. It's intriguing to kind of think staying that way, but that's something we'll continue to evaluate every day. And when he's ready, again, as you probably heard me talking about, there's still some things in our offensive package we have to kind of review with him, or on the bench, show him what to do, or Felipe on the floor has to kind of coach him through some stuff sometimes. But he's just also a naturally good basketball player too. So sometimes the smartest thing for me to do is just get out of the way and just let him go make some plays.
Talking about Pinckney a little bit, what he's been able to do since really this whole season, but at his size in the Sun Belt, for you guys, how much of a mismatch is he against pretty much every team? Because the size of your team is you're so bigger than most teams you play.
Well,
Can you talk about that and what he does so well at that size?
Well, first of all, he's a great young man, and he's one of those guys that has been here through some 2 tough years, and he's rewarded a lot of times. It's a great example to other people. Sometimes you got to hang in there. And he's being rewarded because he hung in there and he's worked his tail off this past summer. But I mean, there's another night he's get 18. But to have him, he and Felipe from day one have developed such a good chemistry and love for each other. To be honest with you, and they complement each other so well. Both of them are very smart basketball players. Both of them can step out and shoot the 3. Of course, Dre has his game is just night and day from where it was last year. So he's a vital cog, and so many people on Austin and Felipe are kind of selling out on those two guys, and it's really DeAndre said, okay, if you want to do that, I'm here to take up the slack. So it's good to see that happen.
And
One more question.
Harris, do you expect the offensive output you be getting from him?
Every night, if you look down there, first of all, he's one of our best defenders. He can guard 1 through 5. He doesn't say much, but he's got an incredibly high basketball IQ, and he's got 11 points, 10 rebounds. But that's almost every single night you look there. He's got that kind of activity. But he has been an incredible surprise, and he's another young man. I'd echo just what I said about DeAndre. Stayed here during the tough times when the easiest thing to do was to bend to left, and now he's reaping the rewards of it, and I couldn't be more proud.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
All right. Anybody else have anything before I go radio? Okay, thank y'all. Appreciate y'all.